Hello everyone, I've got a story for you today. At one of my previous jobs where I was working as an engineer, my manager at the time asked me to give a presentation on a topic that I really was not confident on at all. And I already hate public speaking. It's probably one of my biggest fears. I know this is pretty ironic because I have a YouTube channel, but there is also a big difference between recording and talking to a microphone where no one is watching me, and then actually being face to face with 20 people that are looking directly at you. Something about it makes it one of my biggest fears, right? I already have this dislike for public speaking, and then when I get asked to give a presentation on a topic that I don't know too much about, you're really asking for disaster. With this being said, my manager asked me to give this presentation about a month and a half in advance. So I had about a month and a half to stress about this and also a month and a half to prepare for this presentation. But literally got down to where I had my PowerPoint for this presentation all set up. That was done early, but the real work was me actually practicing this presentation. And I would practice literally every single night after I got back from work. And this was taking a lot of time away from the YouTube channel because I was doing the YouTube channel at the time as well. So I was practicing this presentation every single night, and I was like, okay, I'm getting a little bit better at it, and I was starting to get pretty darn good at giving the presentation by myself, but I still felt rather nervous about giving this presentation. And then finally the day came where I had to give the presentation in front of about 20 different people, and these were all other engineers, and that includes like managers and supervisors too. The day of the presentation, I was feeling a little bit okay in the morning, and then as it got closer to the hour where I was going to give the presentation, I could just feel the pressure building within me, and I was getting so nervous for it. I was getting that kind of nervousness where your heart is absolutely, well, my heart was absolutely pounding, and like I could feel it in my chest. You know what I mean? Like if I put my hand on my chest, I could feel my heart pounding. This was probably an hour or 30 minutes before the presentation this was happening. And then because my heart was racing so fast, my breathing was starting to like, it was getting harder to breathe. And I was freaking out. Basically, it was getting real close to a panic attack, right? I was getting that nervous for this presentation. I think a big part of the public speaking fear for me is looking stupid in front of people. And then also just simply having people's eyes on me. And I was just constantly worried that I wasn't going to be smart enough. Even though I had practiced this presentation, I felt like I did not deserve to be in this position to give this presentation. And I was so confused on why my manager asked me, of all people, to give the presentation on something that I really didn't know much about. So all of that was kind of piling up in these 30 minutes before the presentation was about to go. And especially like 5 minutes before I actually gave the presentation, it was really like happening. I was like, oh man, I'm getting so nervous for this. But regardless, the time arrived where I had to stand up in front of all 20 people, and I had a little podium in front of where all these people were sitting. So there's kind of like this U-shaped desk. This is where all 20 people had their chairs set up, and on the open part of the U, that's where my podium was, and then also where the projector was putting the PowerPoint that I had prepared up. So I get up in front of these people and I have my PowerPoint all set up, and then I begin the presentation. And I swear my fear for public speaking is the absolute worst. The initial 15 seconds of the presentation. After I get past the first 15 seconds, a lot of the times, not always, but a lot of times, it gets pretty easy after that actually, and I start to build a lot of confidence. But those first 15 seconds, it is overwhelming. So much so that when I was giving this specific presentation, I started off with the first slide, and I'm like, okay, today we're going to be talking about this. And then after I said like those first couple words, I just kind of like paused. I paused for about 5 to 10 seconds because my heart was beating so fast, and I said those first couple words without like breathing, and I was already struggling to breathe properly because I was freaking out, and then I just had to pause because I couldn't get any air in my lungs. Well, I think my face might have turned a little red, but it wasn't too terrible. It was mostly just that I couldn't breathe. But those 5 to 10 seconds felt like eternity, and I kind of like grabbed the podium in front of me, just kind of looked down, took a big breath, just a big breath in, and then a big breath out, and then breathed a couple more times within that 5 to 10 second period. And then I looked up at the people to kind of see like what they were thinking, you know, when I was just taking this little pause. And I saw this this one guy, and he was a supervisor. So he's probably like, what, 35 to 40 or something like that, right? And I look at him, and he's not looking at me. He is looking down at the ground. His eyes are wide open. Like, we're talking big eyeballs, wide open. And his face is like red. It looks like a tomato. And he looks terrified. And I'm like, wait a second here. This guy looks like he's about to have a panic attack before I have a panic attack. He's freaking out more than I'm freaking out. I better pull myself together and give this presentation so that guy doesn't die. It was kind of funny because I was already trying to build up that courage to do this thing, but when I saw him freaking out that much, in a weird way, it actually helped me to be a little bit stronger for him. I don't know how else to explain it than that, but not only because of him, but a big part because I saw this guy freaking out because he didn't want me to fail. He didn't want me to fail so badly that he was freaking out, that I was able to kind of pull myself together because of that. I was able to face that fear that I had, and I was able to give a really good presentation, actually. And so the presentation was so good that I got a bunch of compliments from people afterwards. And whether or not they were complimenting me because they saw how scared I was at the beginning or because the presentation itself was actually, well prepared and good, I don't know. They talked about how I was a little stressed at the beginning, but regardless of that, the presentation was awesome. And it really paid off to just face my fears. Moral of the story is, though you may be feeling fear to give a presentation, a lot of times the people in the crowd, they are feeling fear for you too. They don't want you to fail just as badly as you don't want to fail. There may be some people in the crowd who are just jerks and they don't care about you and they do want you to fail. Of course, there are those people in the world, but most of the people, they don't want to see you fail. And because of that one guy who didn't want me to fail, or who I could clearly see that he didn't want me to fail, that really helped me to power through that presentation. And then in addition to that point, though you may feel fear, I would say that everyone feels fear. It takes courage to face those fears, and especially in the moment when you're really feeling that fear like you're strongest. It takes a lot of courage to face that fear. And if you can face that fear, you're going to see a lot of personal growth from facing that fear. And that's a really powerful memory I can draw from because I was so scared to do this thing and I still faced it and overcame it. I can draw from that, but I still feel the fear of public speaking. Even before I'm going to record a YouTube video, I still feel that fear. But those memories of you overcoming those fears can really help you in the future. Anyway, I thought that was kind of a funny story, but not only a funny story, it's also a good learning lesson for all of you. If you happen to enjoy this story or maybe found it to be relatable or helpful, please consider leaving a like, subscribe for more. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.